Welcome to the Living Out Loud show with Michelle Wadley and Alan Vukas. In each episode, we will explore practical spirituality through inspiring and enlightening conversations. Be a part of our weekly conversation with a rotating cast of speakers, teachers, and authors as we uncover and share spiritual, mental, and emotional tools to help you live your authentic life out loud now. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Living Out Loud show. I'm Alan Vukas.
And I'm Michelle Wadley. So welcome. We were laughing before the show started, so I'm still still giggling inside, where we have enlightening, engaging, and fun conversation about practical spirituality to empower you in your living your authentic life and to live it out loud. So we welcome you here. This is episode 15, and we are moving right along in this year's global theme for the Centers for Spiritual Living, and it's just absolutely wonderful.
Oh, yeah. So today's episode is entitled Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And we were having a little chat earlier as far as what does that have to do with? But our theme this month, Michelle, we're talking about the light within the shadows, about shadow work, right? Exploring those parts of us that we've been hiding.
Yeah, this is, again, I just must say, this has been a powerful year for those individuals who are fortunate enough to be part of a CSL community. You are beautifully placed in an incubator for growing and for expanding your essence. It's a beautiful place to be. For those of you who are not, the teaching and the philosophy is still fully available. And the theme this year, especially the last 3 months, right, Alan? We had vulnerability, authenticity, and now the shadow. And how all of these blend together. And I don't know about you, Alan, but it's ripping me wide open. I'm just being ripped open and examining new parts of me. And I'm not new to this work. I'm not new. I'm not a novice at looking or investigating or diving deep. Not new in any way. But it's fascinating to me how the more we put, we focus the light on something, the more we get to see all the aspects, all the facets, all the shadows. And sometimes we have a little ouch before we have the aha. Right. They're part of a package, but I'm happy to be doing it.
Oh,
because I will forever be improving myself as a good ancestor to my legacy, and that's always most important to me. I want my downline to look up and say, my mother changed the way we did things, or my nana, or whoever it is, or my great grandmother stood for our wholeness.
Oh, that's beautiful. And all of us, we are the extension of our ancestors, right? All of our ancestors were looking for better and more, for their offspring to have better and more, and to have a better life. And so here we are. Some might say we're the answer to their prayers, right? We are the tip of the wave. And so what are we doing with it? And that was part of this inspiration in us. The overall topic, or the name of the show, the Living Out Loud show, it's about letting that which is here to express, to let it out. And so some of that involves us being curious, being interested, cultivating the authenticity, being vulnerable. And here in that vulnerability, this month, we're talking about light within shadows, and we touched on this last night. We got to explore, dive in deep of what's wanting to express, and in there might be those dark spots or places that we've been avoiding, repressing, and that's go ahead.
You know me, because you say something and then all of a sudden I go off, and I'd like to tie something together, and that's because people of especially my age, because I'm older than you, and older, and there's a lot of negative conversation in the world about the generations that are coming. And I just did a whole blog about this, and there's a lot of complaints, and they're called arrogant and entitled. And I can understand why someone thinks that, but I want to tie it together because we spoke about legacy and ancestry, right? Because those our family who came before us wanted more for us. So we are the result of that. But these coming generations are the result of us wanting them to be more. So we're and there's a age, I mean, I'm a boomer, but the age before us, they called them the silent generation because they were taught to not speak until spoken to.
Mm,
Well, of course, they didn't like that, so they changed that for the next generation. And here, my generation, we wanted our sons and daughters to be enlightened, to have a voice, to speak up for themselves, to take on their lives. And now there's criticism of how they're doing that. So my message in the blog and here is that our ancestry, the more we engage and grow, expect the coming generations to be bold and brilliant, and expect them to irritate you because they're just showing you what you're not.
mm,
They're just, that's all, but they're brilliant. And it's so important that we stop being offended and start embracing them and praising the place because, they don't play around. They're not, they're, with environmental issues and political issues and racism and diversity, they're not playing around. They,
right,
they don't have to get it. They have it. So
right.
I just wanted to tie that together with what
Yeah,
you
it's almost
addressed.
like a leapfrog, generations leapfrog off of one another.
Yeah,
We're standing on the
yeah.
shoulders of of giants, those who were before us. The next generation coming in already has that. And I had a wonderful opportunity this week, and we'll get to our show topic in just a moment. But thank you, everyone, for joining us and being part of our conversation. And this is how it goes here. This is how it goes. And but this past week, last week, I had an opportunity to sit with a group, and we were doing some visioning together. And visioning is a spiritual practice. Hello, Tracy. I see Tracy joining us. Um, so, but we were visioning. Visioning is a spiritual practice where we might have an idea and we just drop into our hearts and we put down the idea and allow our inner guidance, spirit within, just that higher part of us to reveal um, to reveal what's not known yet. What is wanting to be known, what's wanting to emerge, and I was holding space for this group. And it had to do around topics such as some of you just mentioned, environmental, all of the anti-racism, I mean, diversity, equity, inclusivity, all of this, and the brilliance
Mm,
that was coming out of. There were a
mm.
number in the space that are younger than I am, and I'm not that old,
You're not old at all.
I'm not that old, but I will tell you, I was sitting there and just amazed, and I felt old because they were speaking language, and I said, "Oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to to be getting older. Is I need to adapt and I need to make space and hold the space for that brilliance and magnificence. I can't catch up to them because they're already far ahead. So let me
You're
get
not
out of
meant
the
to.
way and make space."
Yeah, yeah.
It was just an awareness of mine of wow. And
And so for if you're listening, the lesson, and Alan said it, but the real lesson is to, and this is where we can tie it into shadows, that if Alan had a reaction
mm,
and balked or resisted or put up a like, no, we're not going there, that would have been part of that would have been shining a light on maybe some inner insecurity, but instead he's celebrating it. So for each of us, we have the opportunity to celebrate the newness, celebrate it, even if you're sparked, because that spark is the light. It's the
Mm,
twinkle
that's
that
right.
then keeps
Right.
us going in a new
The
direction.
twinkle, twinkle. So today, so just so to we'll get us back on, there we go. Well, just thank you for bringing us on to what our topic is today. So today we are going to be touching on it, leaning into those dark spaces and some practical ways to witness the twinkle, to witness the twinkle. Because last week we talked about unlearning fear of the dark. We have been taught to those things that feel overwhelming, those Michelle, you shared some wonderful examples of how shadows, how these things can get formed as when we're kids. We can have experiences as
Mhm,
kids
mhm.
that create patterns that we act out for the rest of our life. Like children should be seen and not heard. That was something I was told as a
Mhm.
kid.
Right, right.
And whenever did I get the message, the reverse of that is like, let your speak out, speak truth, speak. So there can be a part of me unexamined that's driving
Mhm.
me of keep keeping myself quiet. So we talked about that last week, but today we're going to talk about some other things. I'm going to share a quote, and then we'll go into some examples, examples of the nighttime sky that our brilliance shines up against, like little stars. But
Mhm.
so I've been playing a lot lately. I'm a former software developer turned minister. So technology
He's got
really.
talents in every category.
Oh, and so so AI, artificial intelligence, and ChatGPT, I mean, really is a hot topic for me, and I love technology. And so I asked ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence chatbot. I asked it for "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," this nursery rhyme. What does this have to do with inner shadows? And this will be in our show notes. I'll send it out on our show notes. So if you go to our website, livingoutloud.show, and subscribe there, you'll get the show notes from today, and I'll include this poem. But here's what ChatGPT, it rewrote the nursery rhyme, and it goes like this. So just I invite you to listen. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, show me parts that seem so far, hidden in the depths of night. Reveal the shadows, bring them to light. Up above my conscious mind lies a realm that's hard to find. Like the star, both near and far, shadows, presence, shapes who we are. Twinkle,
Mhm.
twinkle, little star, guide me on this journey far. Exploring shadows, we can grow. To find the light within, we'll know.
Mm.
And that's what we're talking today about. Those night skies, they are there to reveal the light of the truth of who we are. Oh, so yes, there was Michelle, I'd have to tell you, there was more applause for artificial intelligence rendering of a poem than there was for my actual talk. So there we go. We'll see.
Oh,
Maybe there's a
well,
shadow there. Maybe there's a shadow.
well,
So
the thing about ministers, even though it's a small part of the population, I always find it fascinating to encourage people. Oh, Tracy says not true. I encourage people. I talk about it because it is a fascinating journey. Those of us who've chosen to minister are also choosing to expose our shadows publicly and to have people poke at them. And so we each, those of us in this role, and not just ministers, practitioners, spiritual leaders, across across the realm, that we grow by learning how to embrace those pokes and those saltiness. And that's how we learn, and if we were to shy away from it or forget it or avoid it, we would only be ministering for such a long time. It would
Mm,
be ministering from a really shut down place. So it's beautiful even that you say that, because what you're doing is you're exposing a part of you in a humorous way that could have found offense, and instead you're saying, "Yep, this is it."
mm.
But it grows. We get grown. We are
Oh,
grown by.
and I'm embellishing a little too. I do take license as that.
Yeah.
That's take license. Tracy, thank you so much for pointing that out, because I want to make sure that people know where I serve at Concordia Center for Spiritual Living in Rhode Island. Oh, it is a beautiful community, and everyone is welcome. And I got a greater applause than ChatGPT. I'm grateful to say that, and so thank you, Tracy. But I'm just making a joke, and so. But so
I
some of the dark skies, so some of the things as we moving this Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Last week we unlearned fear of the darkness, even though
Mhm.
we're trained to. The grief might be too overwhelming, or the regrets, or the prejudices. It can feel like it's too much, and so we just turn away. But there's we talk about leaving that door open, leaving that door open so that we can explore. and and in the brilliance of who we are, the light of who we are, whether it's a star in the night sky, or a um, fireworks. Here we're coming up this the summertime, Memorial Day weekend is coming up.
Our poor
Or
dog.
oh, I know, yes. Oh, and gratefully in our neighborhood they don't do a lot of that, but dogs, poor dogs, keep theirs covered. And but even rainbows. In order for a rainbow to be complete, every color, every spectrum of the color is in there. And so for ourselves, these dark spots or areas are
Mhm.
really they're inviting our gifts. So the 6 areas that we're going to touch on, and Michelle and I will go back and forth. But so some of the dark skies that we may encounter in our life is there are strong feelings we might have. We might, or being upset with others, recurring patterns where round and round we go. It seems like you've said this, Michelle, that's a good indicator of here I am again, right? That's
Yep.
unexplained discomfort, and this is not where we're just feeling where we're those of us who are highly sensitive persons or empaths. This is where there's something else going on, where we just can't put a finger on it. Areas where we're self-sabotaging, or even
Mhm.
dreams and nightmares that are recurring. So these are some dark skies, and anyone who's listening, maybe one of these, there might be a dark sky or a dark hallway that's inviting you. And so we'll just go over, so what are some practical ways to explore this, and what does it even look like? So Michelle, do you want to start with our strong feelings?
Yeah, yeah, I do, and especially for our audience, the one thing I always like to start these, because this is can be a relatively heavy conversation sometimes, but I always like to start it by saying, please don't be afraid to recognize, to feel, and to allow this to come to light. Because
Mm,
if the fear, like we have fear anyway, but the fear of then exposing this stuff will have us hide it, and hiding it just has it grow and fester, and we really don't want to do that. And the fact is, and I want a personal example. I am not new to this work. I have been doing this work for decades. I have been doing forgiveness work and shadow work for decades. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to be honest right now, real quick, just for a second. The other day, something came across my awareness, just out of the blue, across my awareness, and my full body went into reaction. My
mm,
full body. And I knew in that moment, I was still dealing with one of my shadows, which is pretty much a universal shadow. And that universal shadow is I'm not enough. And
mm,
it was painful to feel. It's
mhm,
almost, I can feel it when I'm talking to you right now. However, I'm not. going to shut it down. I want I want to feel the rawness of this experience, because if we all of us can embrace and be willing to move forward and lean into it, then this is where we grow, and we if on the other side of that feeling is freedom.
Right.
That I want you all to remember. So the through, and we do this through mindfulness. So my version of mindfulness is my contemplation. When I have a feeling, instead of being afraid, I contemplate it. And that for me, that's a mindfulness practice. And
Right.
I'll go inside and I'll just ask myself, what is this? What am I feeling? And if I listen with sincerity and honesty, I will get an answer, and
Mm.
that answer will lead me to the gift. And
Mhm.
and the gift could be many things. For me, the gift is simply to realize, "Oh, I'm still not fully functioning. I still have stuff underneath the surface." So I get to do work, and I get to process with somebody or pray with somebody or do what I do. And then I find some freedom. So when you have a strong feeling, even if it seems to come out of nowhere, it's a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift.
Mm. So I heard a couple things there, and I'm just going to echo it back to you because it was notice what you're noticing. So this mindfulness,
Yeah.
being
Yes.
aware,
Yes.
being aware. And when you brought up around the fear, Tracy shared something. She said, "Fear will shut me down." I'm just putting your quote, and it will cut
Mhm.
me off. And last week we talked about, before we're even diving into this, about fear, us, instead of making that, instead of approaching the dark with fear, develop a reverence for it. It's like there is
Mm,
something in here for me. We can the another a way to maybe look on the flip side of fear is excitement.
mhm.
Excitement.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can be afraid of to get on the roller coaster, or I can be excited about the ride
Mhm.
that's ahead. And this takes, though, mindfulness. What you were just saying, Michelle, of being intentional, and this work just doesn't happen willy-nilly. It's
Right.
it's conscious, right? It's
And
conscious work.
in case a listener doesn't know what mindfulness means, I just give you my translation. Mindfulness is when I stop, I slow down, and I just pay attention to the moment. I get mindful of the moment, and then I'm paying attention to my thoughts and my physical body. So I'm becoming mindful of my whole being. So that's a very simple explanation. A mindfulness coach might have a gigantic, complicated explanation, but for me, that's what it is. Because growing your awareness is curative, and I don't remember who said
Mm,
that, but awareness is curative.
I think
So
you just did.
I did. So when you grow your awareness, you empower yourself. You become more powerful every time.
Right, which,
Okay.
because with awareness brings the power of choice,
Yeah. Yes.
awareness of choice, which, moving into our next area of a night sky that might be present in our life at some time or another, is when we get upset with others. When
Mm.
we get upset with others. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I don't know. Have I mean, I can think of a few, but if there are people or situations that show up in your life that trigger you,
Mhm.
for example, you know, I don't have anyone like this in my life, but maybe they might be someone who's just so confident and just so sure of themselves, and then they're just out there doing stuff. And oh my gosh. Yeah, actually, this is one of mine. It's just like, because I've got things to say, and there are other people who are just out there just with such confidence about themselves. Now, when we're triggered, when we get upset with others showing up in certain ways, or maybe not showing up in the ways that we expect, it it could be an indication that there's something that we don't like about ourselves, that
Mhm.
we don't care for ourselves. So like, let's go into this overconfidence.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, yeah, oh man, I get how many classes I've taken, how many courses I've taken, and certifications. And here I just have an idea, and I'm just going to go ahead and just go out there and make a class or workshop. Mm. Yeah, I'm just sharing. I'm being real here. I'm just being real. But an opportunity of if I'm getting irritated by someone's overconfidence, what I'm naming as
Yeah, I was
overconfidence.
gonna say that's your name for it. They're just being, right?
They're just being. It's my name. Yes, I'm telling a story about it. And
Yeah.
and so the dark sky, and for a way for me to explore that dark sky, for me to see my own light, is actually maybe to take some time to journal, do some
Mhm.
self-inquiry, to reflect about my reactions. Do you know Byron Katie, who Loving What Is? If you've ever heard of Byron Katie, check out her book. She has a wonderful process she calls the work, but it's a matter of just asking yourself some questions. Is it true? Do I really know this to be true? Who would I be if I couldn't have that thought? And by journaling, I can come to some awareness through that reflection, and maybe the gift is, well, Alan, there's an opportunity for you to become more confident yourself.
Mhm.
So instead of pulling them down like the crab, pulling them back in the crab, trying to pull them back into the basket, we mentioned last week. So if we're triggered by other people's,
Mhm.
we're having these, getting upset with others by what they're doing or not doing, it may be something that's a message for ourselves of what we can do. So what's another one? We have another dark sky.
And I'm still pondering what you said. That's it's funny. We come here for you every week, to our listeners every week, wanting to share of this wisdom that has been garnered from a large group of people through the Centers for Spiritual Living. But Alan and I are benefiting more than anybody else, because as we dive in and unpack this stuff, it's all happening within. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of teaching, and that's the beauty of sharing. Because when you teach and when you share, it's moving through you. So I'm still like right now I could get off the show and just ponder what we just talked about.
There's a
Anyway,
there's a lot, and I just put you had mentioned Centers for Spiritual Living, Centers for Spiritual Living, because one with this work, being in spiritual community and amongst like-minded people is we you can't do this work alone, right? You need someone walking alongside you, because otherwise we could be spinning in circles. We've been trying to, but centers, if you go to csl.org, you can find a center near you if you're not connected. Um,
or a spiritual living circle. They have these circles too, where it's all online for people who live in really way outside of the urban areas where most of the centers exist. So you never have to be without support. You never, ever, ever have to be without support. And yeah, I guess you can do it alone, and a lot of people do. There are introverts that want to do it alone. But the thing about these communities, and I know we're going off subject again a tiny bit, but the thing about these communities, when I walk in on a Sunday to the community or to the book study or to the classes, I have someone who has been studying also, and whether it's my friends who look back at me and they reflect possibility to me.
mm, mhm.
That's what we want. We want someone to reflect back to us possibility, the idea that something else is possible. But
Yeah.
all right, let me get back on this subject.
I was
So,
just I'm just
oh,
with inserting here is first, but we're also building community here too. And so
yes.
if this is a place to start, with Michelle and myself, we're so glad that you're here. And and for us to stay connected in touch, go to our livingoutloud.show and subscribe so we can make sure to keep in touch with you here. So what's
And
the
and
next?
and
Go.
share it, by the way. And so the next thing, and this is one of the greatest clues, easiest clue, cue, I never know which one, that that we would encourage you to listen to. And that is trends.
Mm,
Trends in your life are an absolute immediate sign that you are repeating something that is looking to be revealed, that is looking to be freed from inside of you. And so trends, trends are when you have the same issue with many friends, even though the friends seem different. When you marry the same person over and over again, when you keep getting the same boss, when just when the issue, you have an issue with the neighbor, that neighbor moves, and the new neighbor moves in, you have the same issue. Well, all those trends are a sign that you are the constant in the issue.
mhm,
Do yourself a favor, stop thinking it's the world. There's no quicker way to disempower yourself than to try to think it's outside of you. All that we're talking about, all we talk about on this show is and I have a reason for wanting to say this, but our inner landscape, all of these things live here. And the
mm,
sooner you are able or willing to say, huh, that's not them, it's me. The sooner you're willing to do that, the sooner growth is right there to meet you. I promise you that this is true. And so when we notice the same thing over and over again, it is definitely a sign that there is a wound, a pain, a trauma from deep that is, trying to trickle up. And it's really, this is what it's saying to you. Oh, please love me. Please love me. I need you. I need you to love me. I
mm,
need you to see me. And that's a, it- you know, sh- um, inner child work. Inner child work is shadow work. So
yes.
that's one of aspects of you, your inner child saying, please see me. I need to be loved, and I need to be held. And so when we turn to it, instead of turning, because if we think it's those outside people, because we see it over and over again, and we're convinced, oh, there's just a bunch of knuckleheads in the world and it's not about me. Well, if we do that, then that inner child is going to keep showing up, and it's going to show
Right.
up again and again and again.
Right.
um the I mean, therapy, working with
Mm,
a practitioner, journaling, meditation, not just silent meditation, but meditation slash contemplation, where you ask yourself a question. What needs to be revealed here? What
yes.
what is wanting? That's the really powerful question. What wants to be revealed now through
Mm,
me?
mm,
That's the secret. Okay, that's the secret. Yes, and someone just said it's a life here. Judy said it's a lifetime process, and she is so, because, and again, I've done, they say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. I'm pretty much an expert at this, and I'm still smacked in the face sometimes with the things that come up. It's shocking. And it's beautiful. And I love that, Reverend Allen and I, and I have a few other friends that we can get into this together again, arm in arm to say, come on, let's look. And that's the kind of community that you want to create for yourself. So,
mhm.
Alan, where are we going from there?
Yeah, I was just I'm the same where you're throwing the ball back, and it's just like, oh, I could think there's so much stuff that's coming up just in response to what you were saying. Times times I have said, the same boss, same partner, same, or even I what came to mind is just like, it seems like I nobody hears what I say. I keep
Oh,
speaking and talking, and
oh,
no.
great pattern.
This is
Yes.
this is what how's this
Yes.
not that I have any experience with it, but it's like I keep repeating myself, and it's just like no one hears me. This can be, while I may
Yes.
project this outwards and think no one is listening, there can be a shadow that is looking to be examined, to explored about my own voice and speaking up. Woo!
Sometimes my husband listens in. I don't know if he's listening today, but I'm going to say anybody knows my husband. He's a wonderful, wonderful, loving, gentle, kind man. Really top notch. But when I first met him and I found out he'd been married 3 times and then we were going to get married, I turned to him at one point. I said, either you've done some major healing or I'm majorly screwed up and I don't know it. Because I know that we repeat. Right. And I thought, oh my God, if he's repeating, am I crazy and I don't know it? Or has he just healed? So I don't know that we've actually answered that question. But the point is, that's what happens because we need to. I say we need. For those of you who want to feel emancipated, for those of you who want to feel free, for those of you who don't want to be in pain unnecessarily all the time, this is the work. This is the path. And it's self-love. And next month, we're talking about self-care. So it's a self-caring action to say, oh, I'm going to look. I'm going to look at what this is.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to acknowledge, well, between you and Neil, I'm going to borrow Judy's quote there. It's a lifetime process. So maybe you and Neil will figure it out there, as far as the it's a lifetime process. But, one thing that Tracy shared, and this is something that we really need to acknowledge is, there are as far as there are systems, there are institutions, there are organizations that are, what we're discussing and this shadow work is our internal experience and relationship to the conditions that are around us, to where we may not feel, or it may feel too big out there, but what is going on within us in response to it, that freedom, Michelle, that you always talk about, the freedom that regardless of what's going on outside of me, what's going on inside of me, outside of me, what can I do about my internal experience in relationship to that? And so this is not to not hold systems and organizations or individuals that cause harm to others or oppression. When we take back our own power from that space, power from within ourselves, then we are more powerful to actually do something, not from a place of being triggered, but from a place of true power and freedom. So when we get in our own way, is this where we're at? Are we feeling, we're feeling uncomfortable. This was the one, feeling uncomfortable. Is that where we're at? When you have a strong feeling of unease or discomfort and this is a great segue. This is what I was just talking about. Great segue. That when you feel uncomfortable or when there's certain topics that come up that maybe you want to deny or avoid. Perfect segue.
Okay, here we go.
Perfect segue. And Michelle, maybe you could bring some into this because there's a conversation going on right now that we won't, without all the details. So
we got to tie together what Tracy just shared. And in my community, a couple of other CSL communities and some Unity communities in New Jersey, where we're going to be having a gathering in June, and you're all welcome. But the point is, initially I called this gathering a picnic. And then one of my colleagues, which I'll give her credit, Reverend Frankie Timmers, informed us at the meeting that the etymology of that word picnic is not harmful. And most people have no knowledge and have no sense of it being harmful. But there is a piece of our history, especially in the South, where the word picnic is highly charged because it had to do with lynchings in the South and people gathering around food and celebration while a person of color was being lynched. The history is dark, dark, dark. and horrific. And I did not know that that word had that stain on it. So upon knowing that, we as a group immediately decided to change the name. And then I informed my community and I told them why. And the people of color in my community immediately, yeah, this is a national shadow, as Tracy says. Um, and so the people of color in my community were shaking their heads like they knew. And I'm like, oh man, I got caught unaware again. Here's the shadow. And no, that it's not just one meaning of that word, but the point is that that is there enough with enough people that if I go unaware into a situation and I just use that word, I'm sparking and re-traumatizing people who have that awareness. So that is a shadow. This is a national shadow. This is a national shame point. This is a
Mm.
shame point for us. And now you can ignore it. You don't have to pay attention to it. You can think I'm full of it. You don't have to agree with it. But that doesn't mean it's not having its painful impact.
Mhm.
And the feeling, I when I found out about it, and then of course I called my friend who is an expert in the field, and Tracy Brown, God bless you, Tracy Brown, just to kind of unpack it with her a little bit. And yeah, no, it's not the etymology, but the point is the feeling, my own feeling is not for someone else. I have to look at, why am I uncomfortable? Where is racism alive in me? Where is that
Mm.
shadow of times gone by? Where is it peeking its head in me? And that it takes a lot of courage to be willing to ask those questions, because it's, folks, some of this work is hurtful. It's
Mhm.
hurtful,
Mhm.
but we can do it.
Mhm. So I just wanted to say, so really just to it's not necessary. So we're not talking about the word necessarily about picnic itself or that, because you can go to Reuters, you can look at the
Yep.
etymology of the word and whether it's racist or not. The but even bringing it up will trigger a discussion as
Mhm.
to the comfort level of, oh well, why not, and then it becomes something totally else. And so it's evidence of a shadow. This, when we are feeling uncomfortable around topics or situations that arise. And I was in a men's gathering recently, and the topic of loneliness was brought up,
Mhm.
and which is an epidemic going on, and there's
Right.
an epidemic in our country, and especially around men middle-aged and greater. It's I mean it, men are dying as a result of loneliness, and the
Can you imagine that? I'm sorry, I'm just pausing because I want you to, I want to get with it. I want to catch up to what you just said and have our listeners be able to catch up that people are dying out of
yes,
loneliness with on a planet with 8 billion people. Wow.
I mean, dying. And I mean, and I'm doing some work around loneliness right now, because I see that it's a, I've dealt with it for myself, and but when the topic came up in the room, you could feel some discomfort.
Mhm.
You could
Yep.
feel some discomfort and some shifting around, and as to the vulnerability to talk about it and to reveal oneself. So when we're feeling uncomfortable around topics and situations, that could be an awareness of a shadow. And again, notice what you're noticing. Pay attention to what's happening in your body, this mindfulness, and reflect on it. And to, why am I feeling this? What am I feeling? What do I need? What do I want? What's important to me here? So what else? Uh, so that's another dark sky in which we can find our light when we take some
It's
time to look.
it's kind of funny how this whole show is meant to, it's called Living Out Loud, and it's meant to be empowering and enriching, but we know I want it, don't let it get by, I don't want it to get by me, that to get there we have to walk through this dark hall. It is, it's a dark hole and it could be a little scary, but the light is always there. The light is always there. The truth is, at some point, I'd love us to get rid of the analogy of light and dark because they have their own implications that run deep. But at some point, we'll upgrade that. And another way is getting in our own way. When you find yourself doing things or not doing things, but not knowing why, when you procrastinate or when you feel compelled, anything that compels you forward or anything that compresses your energy to hold you back, there is a very good possibility that right there under that is a shadow that you have not acknowledged, that you have not acknowledged. And
Mm.
so we tend to get in our own way. And sometimes what we do interesting things like we jump around in relationships or people, come on, somebody here knows this. You've actually moved your home or you
Mm.
moved your job or
I have
as
to
a young
clean my desk. I have to clean my desk right now. I'm sitting down to do something, and then everything else becomes more important than what it is that I. Oh
That's
wait,
funny.
wait, isn't everybody like this, or is it just me?
No, no. The other day, I have so much going on this week, and I'm having a gathering this Sunday after post celebration. But you know what I had to do? I had to go into my linen closet and finally hang up the hooks because I hadn't hung up the hooks yet. Everything I had to do, and I'm there, and I'm so satisfied. So, oh my gosh, yes, it is so
Ooh.
easy to misdirect my attention.
Yes, that's right.
And the truth is, I wasn't even thinking about that till you just brought it up. But yeah, procrastinate and cleaning the desk. Oh yeah, yeah. It has to happen now. It has to happen now. And
It's
that's so.
avoidance. It's a way of avoiding, though. It's a way
Yeah,
of avoiding waiting to be explored.
it's compulsion.
Mhm.
Look at what you are compelled to do. There's a clue there. There's a clue there. And again, since this is going to be the last week we're talking about it, I really want to make sure that we hook this into when we look, we get freedom. We find freedom. When we look, we heal. When we look, something new is revealed. I don't want to leave our audience with the idea that, oh my God, this is
We've
so
got
dismal.
one more.
It's not. No, I know. I know. I just feel like I want to keep saying it because what we're talking about is climbing the ladder of emancipation and our
Yeah.
own evolution. That's what we're talking about. Go ahead, Alan. You got the next
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah, and and this is having to do around dreams and nightmares. When we have, I don't know, the past couple of weeks, I have been having just dreams, and I'm not sure what's going on. And I've been actually, and this is what I've been doing is I have been making notes of the dreams because they've been so involved. Kevin tells me, my partner, he says I have never met someone who has such detailed dreams. I mean, there are plots and subplots. I mean, there is like, it's like an episode of some show. But and the other night, it was all night long. It felt like, I mean, I was just coming to states of wakefulness to where I was even aware that I was dreaming. I was aware that I was dreaming, and
Mhm.
I told myself, I said, I don't understand that symbol. Could you
Well,
tell me again? Tell me again. Speak to me in another language. I really want to understand. And so
okay.
when we have dreams and nightmares and those things, keeping a journal, my phone is by my bed, like many people, our devices are within arm's reach, but I'll just start a voice memo, and just before I even open my eyes, and I'll start talking and describing it with my eyes still closed as a way of recording that to because there is a part of me that's wanting to be explored. You mind if I tell a
Mhm.
quick story before we wrap this up?
Oh, please
Yeah,
do.
it
I'm
was
not
just what
going
you said about the dark hallways, and I shared this story with my community, Concordia, when we started this topic about light within the shadows on Mother's Day. And as kids, my brother and I, we used to before bedtime, after dinner and our homework and showering, we would be in her room watching television, and she kept the TV in her room because she believed that children shouldn't watch TV unsupervised. So the television was in her room, so she
Mhm.
could lock the door if she needed to, if she was gone. And
Smart.
yeah, and so, but when after we were watching TV and she would send us off to bed, our house was situated that our bedrooms were at the other end of the house from her bedroom, as ranch style, and there was a bedroom or living room and a hallway that was dark. Here it's
Mm.
nighttime, and and as little kids leaving her room, and she's telling us, go to bed, go to bed. And here we're standing outside of her room looking down this dark hallway as children, imagining all of the things that we saw on the TV that are down there, the Murder She Wrote, and some of the things that we watched were, I mean, tame as to what's on TV now, but in our minds, we saw in the shadows the villains.
Mhm.
And there came a point, and we would have to run through the dark. And there were many times I ran in order to be able to turn on the light. What you said with this dark hallway, in order to get to that place of rest, it does require us making that hallway. And there came a time when I realized within myself, I remember it,
Mm.
the cognitive process of like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in the
Mm.
house here. This is in my mind. I'm having a reaction to this is a thought I'm having. It was on the television. I questioned the reality of it, of
Wow.
the feeling.
Good for you.
And then so that I could be brave to walk through the dark. And
Mm.
so this whole idea of twinkle, twinkle, little star, I think that's what we're here about is that the light is there. The light's
Yeah.
here, right, Michelle? We're
Yeah.
brilliant.
We are brilliant. We
We're
are.
brilliant. So
And
that's my little story. That's my little story. That's my
and
story.
the world is beginning to reflect the freedom from that pain. It really is. And that was really brave of you. I commend you at that age to have had the awareness to do that.
It took some time, and I was the oldest, and
Sure.
my brother would push, we would negotiate, and I would always lose and have to be the one going down the hall. And but let's close this. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Only in the darkness can you see the stars."
Mm.
Oh,
So I want to remind everybody that this magazine, the Science of Mind magazine, is a wonderful magazine. This is the themes or the global themes are what we're following, and the magazine follows the themes. Get yourself a copy of that because it's great information, and it's daily prayers and reflections, and there's just really good meaty stuff in this magazine. And then give one to a friend. Of course, find us here. Email us with any questions, thoughts, or suggestions. We'd love love to hear from you. And Reverend Allen, where are
oh,
you?
yeah. So you can find me on Facebook at Rev Alan Vukas, or you can also see us streaming live on Sundays on Facebook at Concordia CSL. Just look up Concordia CSL anything, and you'll find us. And I also write occasionally, and I'm going to be putting some more content out there around these topics and some upcoming stuff. This work on loneliness. I'm going to be doing some stuff around that, but at newthoughtnewlife.com, newthoughtnewlife.com.
Beautiful.
And how about you, Michelle? Where can people find you?
The organ is I'm part of course, CSL and J. Let me put that one in there first. CSLNJ.org. That's where I am minister, and then I have my educational nonprofit, the Planned Happiness Institute, where I do my forgiveness work, shadow work, and other such things. You'll find my blog there, and very soon to now, if you're interested, you'll be able to join me in part of membership. We're going to have a membership site so you can join and get regular material. So we hope to see you there. I got to tell Alan, we have 6 minutes. I got to tell you the funniest story ever, which is when you talked about your brother and you had to go forth down the hall.
Yeah.
One time, this is so bad. This is so bad. Don't curse me because of this. But I had my young son. My young son is 27. He was my third son. I had him when I was just around 40, 39, 40. And there was a Halloween scary event at the high school and he wanted to go. So I took him. Now he's probably in, I don't know, 6th grade, 7th grade. And we go to the high school and they have one of those mazes in the gym with
Yeah, yeah.
we had people that came up from Six Flags to actually help them do it. It was done well. I was so scared. Seth was standing in front of me, and I was kind of directing him around the corners and pushing him forward because I was terrified.
You had no choice.
I'm sure that some piece of that he's going to have to work out in therapy. So I'm guilty as a mom for doing that. But here's a funny to me now. I know you're still, but this is the stuff that happens to us, and then we don't realize where it lands. You're still laughing.
Oh, this poor child. This poor child. This is what I'm saying is being used as you go first. This is all for you to have fun.
I was so scared.
Oh.
So there I was. That's a poo-poo on me as in my mothering, but oh man. So that's how sometimes our shadow gets created by unsurprising and very surprising ways.
That is right.
Oh my God. Listen, we love you. We are here for you because we want to incite in you a hunger for your own emancipation and bringing you the skills and the tools and the conversation to incite you to look and inquire. That's why we're here. And so would you like to pray us out today, Alan?
And so just let us know, so the question is just this week as we're leaving away and before we go into prayer, is just that what are you going to do this week for yourself?
Yeah.
In order to see, to witness the fireworks of your own brilliance and to celebrate that, are there night skies that you've been avoiding that are waiting for you to see your brilliance and that the twinkle twinkle of that star that you are? And Judy has said, shine on, little star, shine on, little star. And
thank you for being here. Those of you who watch us live, we really appreciate you witnessing this conversation. And for those who see us or listen to us later, we're so happy you're here.
Yeah, so glad you're here. And so let's just go ahead and just anchor this knowing until we come together again next Wednesday at noon. Oh, and so it's just we just drop into our hearts just to that space, that place where our magnificence, our brilliance, where that light resides, where the truth of who we are is shining brightly. Shine on, brightly, little star. It's from this space that I acknowledge and recognize that light is here, showing up in and through and as each one. And as we go forward into our week and into our lives, into our workplaces, our families, into all of the places that sometimes may seem like there's dark hallways or there's dark skies, what I am accepting and knowing right now that the light that we are, the light that I am, is shining brightly and is lighting up the way. Wherever there might have been fear, wherever there might have been grief or sorrow, that this light lightens the load so that it's no longer a burden, but that the brilliance and magnificence of myself, of each self, can be seen, experienced, And I know this for each one, and accept it and claim it, and just declare that as this week moves forward, each one moves forward in power,
Mhm.
in strength,
Yeah.
and feels the support of those around them, of life within them, guiding and directing them. And so I just allow this to be with such gratitude. Gratitude for Michelle, gratitude for this, all of our listeners, grateful for this opportunity to be reminded, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Oh, how bright you are, how bright I am. I just allow this to be. And I do so by saying, and so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. We love you. We'll see you next week.
See you
Namaste.
next week. Namaste.